something a lot of cruisers don't know about San Juan. That gorgeous beach you've been looking to swim at might actually be dangerous. Even the locals say stay out when conditions are bad. But there's a beach just minutes from the port that's perfectly safe, and I'll tell you exactly which one. Plus, I'm going to show you a house that's only 5 feet wide, a cat rescue where you can meet dozens of island cats, and forts on forts on forts. Oh, and the home of the original Piña Colada. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. So let's get into the San Juan Cruise Port. The San Juan Cruise Port is one of the most historic and culturally rich ports in the Caribbean. Located in the heart of Old San Juan, it greets cruisers with colorful colonial buildings, centuries-old forts, unique blue cobblestones, and sweeping views of the Atlantic. It's both a popular port of call and a major home port, serving as a starting point for many Southern Caribbean itineraries. Now, most ships visiting for the day dock at the Old San Juan terminal, which is great. If you dock there, you're in luck because you're right in the middle of all the action, the city's historic district. Home port sailings, on the other hand, typically depart from the Pan American Pier, which is about 10 minutes away from all of the downtown activity, but that's okay because it's only about a 10-minute drive by taxi or Uber. Now, Royal Caribbean and Carnival usually sail from Pan American, while Norwegian, Celebrity, and Virgin Voyages ships often use the Old San Juan piers when in port. So if your home port destination is something like Orlando, Miami, or Port Everglades, you're probably going to be docked at the Old San Juan pier. Now, what stands out about the San Juan Cruise Port is that you don't need an excursion to have a really great day here. You don't have to spend any money. The streets, the food, the vibes, they tell their own story. So much so that you can just step off the ship, walk off that short pier, assuming you're docked in Old San Juan, and walk straight into centuries of history, music, and local life. Now, when I first visited though, I made a mistake. I assumed that my kids would enjoy exploring that old city as much as I did. I love history, them not so much. They did not enjoy it. They were ready to leave after about 20 minutes. They were bored out of their minds. So lesson learned here. Every time I visit Old San Juan now with my kids, we plan an excursion or something with more activity. So make note of that. If you have really young children or you have kids like mine that are just not interested in historical stuff, they're probably gonna get bored and you probably want to plan some other activity. However, if you are into history or your kids are, especially military history or just photography and soaking up culture, San Juan is one of those places where you can just wander for hours and not feel bored. And as you navigate those streets, make sure you do one thing. Look down and admire San Juan's cobblestones, because I think that's one of the coolest things about this city. They are a distinctive blue color. Why is that? Well, the stones are blue because they were originally made from furnace slag, which is a byproduct of iron smelting that oxidized and turned into a bluish hue over time from exposure to all that moisture and sea air. Now let's talk about how to get around San Juan. As I mentioned, Old San Juan is insanely walkable, assuming you don't have mobility limitations. It's pretty easy to navigate on foot, and if you're docked at that Old San Juan terminal, which most of you will be unless you're using San Juan as a home port destination, in which case you wouldn't probably be exploring San Juan that much anyway by foot, but you're in luck because many major attractions are within walking distance. However, when it comes to mobility limitations or cruisers on scooters, things like that, make sure that you note the infrastructure. It is these beautiful cobblestone streets, but they are cobblestone streets, not the most easy to navigate. There can be a lot of steep hills, especially to one of the biggest forts, which I'll tell you about. It's a very steep hill. There's a notorious Puerto Rican humidity, and as a sweaty biatch, that's what drives me crazy. It's always really, really, really humid and hot. I don't care. When I visited, I'm always just sweating like a stuck pig. Now, like many other Caribbean cruise port destinations, I do not recommend that cruisers rent cars here. And it's easy for a lot of Americans to make that mistake, thinking, okay, well, it's in the United States, I'm an American, why not? But while it's tempting, driving in San Juan can be really daunting. The traffic, especially in Old San Juan, is pretty heinous. It's difficult to navigate narrow, rocky, historic streets. And it's just, trust me, don't try to drive it. It's not worth the stress. Now, depending on your plans and comfort level, here are some of the best ways to get around. My favorite way to get around in cruise port destinations is with a private driver. And I will tell you, I struggled in San Juan. It took me a while to find one. It's not part of the culture here for some reason, but I finally found a guy. He's great. I highly recommend. His name is Jeffrey. He has a comfortable, air-conditioned, that's important because again, that San Juan humidity is crazy, but he has a nice, comfy, air-conditioned vehicle and he knows how to navigate that traffic. He's a born and raised local. He knows exactly how to traverse all the back roads, all the things like that. And he also serves as a built-in tour guide. So as he takes you around, he'll point out to you all of the sites and attractions. And if there's some place that you want to actually get out and visit or take photographs or actually go inside like a museum, he can drop you off. You just tell him when you want him to come back, because parking is also a challenge in Old San Juan, and he'll make sure that he's there to pick you back up. Being able also to schedule him in advance makes it really easy of taking the guesswork out of transportation. And shockingly, his rates are pretty competitive with Uber or taxis. And if you're traveling with a family or group, it's really affordable because you're splitting that cost. Now, if you want pricing, more information, stuff like that, I have a link. I'll drop it below. Just fill it out. I'll connect you with Jeffrey. Now, another option is golf carts. Outside the San Juan Cruise Port terminals, you'll often find independent operators offering shared rides on large golf carts. So they'll hold up the sign, you're like, okay, I want to go to these places. You'll discuss the price, which sometimes is negotiable. You'll hop on that golf cart with a bunch of other people, and then they'll take you through Old San Juan. Pretty similar to what Jeffrey does, but it's just on golf cart instead of car, and you don't have control, and there's other people with you, whereas with a private driver, you get to call the shots of where you want to go, all that stuff. Now, these are open air carts with bench seating that can fit several passengers at a time. Now, I do think the private driver option is the better way to go. It actually ends up being about the same price, but this is also a great option if you prefer that more open air vibe. Again, no air conditioning except for Mother Nature, but this is a casual, inexpensive way to see the main sites near the San Juan Cruise Port without walking around in that heat and humidity, traversing this challenging infrastructure and going up a lot of hills. And most drivers will give you a brief narration and overview of the area, so it's sort of like a tour as well. Now, prices are per person and they can vary depending on how far you go. So make sure you confirm the price before you hop on and compare that cost with hiring a private driver, because if you're a solo traveler, golf cart's gonna be a lot cheaper. But if you're a family, especially of 3 or 4, private driver is probably gonna be the best way to go. Now, another way to get around is by walking. Assuming you don't have mobility limitations, Old San Juan is compact and pedestrian friendly, minus, again, the infrastructure challenges. So you can walk to most of the top attractions from the Old San Juan Pier. This includes El Morro and Castillo San Cristobal. Now, again, just be prepared for uneven cobblestones, so make sure you wear your comfy shoes. Another way to get around is taxi or Uber. Rideshare options are available throughout the San Juan Cruise Port. Taxis operate on a fixed zone system from port to nearby areas, whereas Uber offers that app-based pricing that you're probably used to. Now, if you're taking a taxi, make sure you confirm payment methods before your ride, because some taxis are cash only. If you're going a short distance, renting an e-scooter or a bike can be a fun and physically active way to explore. You'll find several rental stands near the Old San Juan terminal, which is part of the San Juan Cruise Port, and you can also find app-based rentals in Condado and Isla Verde. Tours and trolleys. San Juan offers free garita trolleys that loop you through the old city, although I found these to be pretty unreliable. I've actually sought these out and they're kind of hard to find. So just note that tours and trolleys can be a little unreliable. But if you have a sense of adventure and you don't mind the risk, you can always try to plan for this. And if you can't find a trolley or garita, then you can just walk around. But if you like more consistency, you like more planning ahead, book a private driver. Now let's talk about the San Juan Cruise Port itself. The San Juan Port can host up to 9 ships between its 2 main terminals, Old San Juan Terminal and Pan American Pier. If you are at the Old San Juan Terminal, you're already in that historic center. So remember, you're right there in the heart of it all. Now, if you're at Pan American, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little farther away, but it's only about 10 minutes by taxi or Uber. You probably don't want to try to walk it. ATMs, restrooms, tour kiosks, and restaurants are available at both, although the Old San Juan Terminal has more availability just because it's in the middle of downtown. Wi-Fi can be found at various cafes, although the signal may vary. Now let's talk about the thing I briefly mentioned earlier, which I make note of because, again, I'm a sweaty bee, which is why is the San Juan Cruise Port so daggone hot and humid? And I tell you, you don't want to underestimate this because it is a thing. If you've ever been and you feel like you've entered a sauna, you're not alone. I feel it every single time I visit. So I was curious why. I was curious if it's actually just me or if it's like really a thing. And yes, it is a thing. There's a reason for it. San Juan is near the Tropic of Cancer, which means year-round direct sun. And you add into that the heat-trapping layout of Old City and sea level altitude, and that is a recipe for humidity that's stifling and awful. And it rarely drops below 70%. Even at night, although most cruisers are gone by then, the warmth sticks around. So yeah, expect to sweat. Now let's talk about the top things for cruisers to do at the San Juan Cruise Port. Castillo San Felipe del Morro is one of the biggest attractions. And what's cool about this is it doesn't have to cost you anything. You can actually explore the grounds for free, or if you do want to explore the inside, you can purchase a ticket that also covers another nearby fort, which is Castillo San Cristobal. Now, I will tell you, again, the heat and humidity, but the climb up to this fort is pretty steep. But it's not a terribly long walk, it's just a steep walk, assuming that you're docked in the San Juan Cruise Port. But I do think it's worth it because once you get up there, the ocean views from the top are absolutely incredible. Just take your time. It's not a race. Walking up that hill again in that heat and humidity is no joke, but I do think this is worth the visit. Another one is San Cristobal Castle. This one is more maze-like with tunnels and barracks. Now it tends to be a little bit less crowded because it's not the big main attraction, which can make for a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. Another option is shopping in Old San Juan. Calle del Cristo is great for local art, ceramics, rum cakes, and Puerto Rican coffee. And I will say that in all of the cruise port destinations I visit, I found more authenticity when it comes to goods and trinkets sold here in San Juan compared to other cruise port destinations. Other places like Nassau, you can tell the stuff is mass produced and bulk imported from China. But in San Juan, I've found more authentic, actual handcrafted things made by locals. So if you are worried about that, you want to make sure you don't just get some mass produced junk. Look for the HO in Puerto Rico signs to support local makers. So that means made in Puerto Rico. However, make sure, like every cruise port destination, keep an eye on your bag and your wallet in crowded shopping areas though, because pickpockets can be a thing and they tend to work the busier streets near the cruise terminal. Now, if you do prefer to stay close to the ship, a few shops are available just across from the Old San Juan Cruise Terminal. They're right there. You don't have to go far and it's pretty flat. You don't have to go up the hills like you do to go to the fort. And they sell locally made rum, sweets, things like refrigerator magnets, Christmas ornaments, things like that, small souvenirs. So it makes it a nice, easy stop before you get back on the ship. Another great option is La Fortaleza and Paseo de la Princesa. This walk is a little better because it's not in direct sun. It's not this huge hill. It's more shaded, it's scenic, it's on a flatter terrain, although there are some ups and downs, and it ends at a beautiful bayfront fountain. So this is a pretty low effort way to soak in San Juan and to get some really great photos. Now, another option that's a bit farther is Bastion de las Palmas de San Jose. This is only about 15 minutes from the cruise port, and this is an artillery site offering stunning panoramic views and much fewer crowds because it's farther away. And another thing, this is a quirky attraction. I love quirky attractions. I love the things that just not every cruiser goes to. And one of my favorites in San Juan is Casa Estrecha. It is a really fun, narrow house that is the world's narrowest house. Now, it actually functions as an art gallery, although the hours are very limited. I've been to San Juan many times. I always stop by the narrow house. It has never been opened, but it's a really cool, fun photo op, and to actually see a place that is technically an actual house is really cool. Another great option is Casa Bacardi. It's a rum distillery, obviously, and it's located across the bay in Catano. So it does take a ferry or taxi, and the tastings and cocktail classes here are just something different to do. As an animal lover, another thing that I love is the Save a Gato Cat Rescue. This is a nonprofit that cares for the stray cats around El Morro, and there are a lot of them, and they provide food, medical care, and adoption services. So it is a quick and feel-good spot to visit. It doesn't cost you anything, but donations are always welcome if you are an animal lover. Another fun thing is to visit the home of the Piña Colada. The problem is there are two places that argue about this and claim to be the home of the Piña Colada. One is the Caribe Hilton. Now this is across the bay, so I'm never gonna make the effort to go there just to say that I visited the home of the Piña Colada, and it's also in dispute anyway. However, if you want to go to the other option that is easily accessible from the San Juan Cruise Terminal, you can visit Barachina. It's walkable and it's lively. I've been there. Of course, I had to try a virgin Piña Colada. I'm not a drinker, and it was pretty tasty. And I kind of like those quirky destinations. So this is just one of those quirky, easy stops that you can pop into as you're traversing the downtown area. And it doesn't cost you anything, just the cost of your Piña Colada. And by the way, Barachina also serves local Puerto Rican food. So if you go, you should try some of the local food as well. Now, another option, this is very touristy, but some people love it, is the Sky High dining experience. This is where you can dine 100 feet in the air, literally. It's not far from the San Juan Cruise Terminal. You make a right, it's kind of over to the right, and they basically take you up in a crane 100 feet in the air, and you're strapped around a table, and you get those beautiful panoramic views of the coastline. So it's something a little bit more adventurous, not for the faint of heart, especially if you don't like heights, but it is a unique and unforgettable experience. Now let's talk about the foods of San Juan, because when I cruise, I personally love to try a lot of the local foods, even though I am more of a selective eater. This is a fun part for cruising for me, so I always like to cover it. Now, San Juan's food scene is definitely worth exploring, so here are a few local favorites that you might want to try. Mofongo is made from mashed fried plantains stuffed with chicken, shrimp, pork, and veggies, and topped with a garlicky sauce. This is probably the island's most iconic dish, and if you want to try it, you'll find lots of great options near the cruise port. Empanadillas are golden fried turnovers filled with beef, chicken, or seafood. Kind of like a pate if you've ever been to the Virgin Islands, which is kind of their version of that. And again, there's lots of options near the cruise terminal. In fact, near the little tourist village where they sell tchotchkes and souvenirs, you'll find food trucks selling this and other local favorites. Tostones are twice fried plantains that are crispy on the outside but soft on the inside, and they're often served with seafood or garlic sauce. And of course, you gotta try the Puerto Rican coffee, which is some of the smoothest in the Caribbean. Now let's talk about beaches at the San Juan Cruise Port, because this is potentially a very serious issue that not a lot of cruisers realize. And I mentioned this in the beginning of the video. Now, the big beach here is Condado Beach. It's popular because it's not far from Old San Juan. It's only about 10 minutes away, and actually Pan American is closer. It's gorgeous, beautiful, scenic, but it has very strong currents. So if you are determined to visit, make sure you stay close to shore and you always check for red flags. If the red flags are there, do not, I repeat, do not go into the water. So honestly, in my opinion, San Juan is just not the best place for a beach day. And if you do a beach day and you go to Condado Beach, again, especially if you have kids or small kids, just be vigilant. Now, if you want a safer option, a better option is Isla Verde Beach. Now, this is a little bit farther away. It's about 15 minutes from the cruise port, but this beach has plenty of amenities, including restrooms, chair rentals, food vendors, and the surrounding area is lined with hotels that will sometimes offer beach access with day passes. Escambron Marine Park in San Juan has Escambron Beach, and it's about 10 minutes from the port. Here you'll also find restrooms, shaded picnic areas, and lifeguards on duty. So this is smaller, but it's still very scenic, and it's convenient if you really want a beach day in San Juan. And I just want to mention too, if you do want a beach day, but maybe not a full beach day, if you hire Jeffrey, my private driver, he can take you around town, show you all the sights, and actually give you a little beach break, and will store your stuff in his car while you're at the beach for maybe a couple of hours, and then he'll take you back to the cruise port. So that's a great way to pack a lot into one day. Now let's talk about the best excursions in San Juan, because not everybody wants to just walk around the old town. And as I mentioned, if you love adventure and excitement, or you have young kids that are easily bored, or older kids that are easily bored, or you're easily bored, you might get bored. So if you're visiting San Juan, you might want to book an excursion. So here are some of the top ones. El Yunque Rainforest is a big one. Now, this is farther from the cruise terminal, so if you want to visit here, I normally don't recommend cruise line excursions, but this is the exception when you're visiting someplace that's farther away, because you don't want to risk missing the cruise ship. And things can happen on your return back, especially San Juan. As I mentioned, those roads, they tend to be narrow and twisty. There are sometimes infrastructure challenges, things like rolling blackouts, things that can pop up that you would never expect. So just book a cruise line excursion if you want to visit the rainforest. But let me tell you about El Yunque and why it's cool. It is the only tropical rainforest in the United States system. So most cruise excursions that visit here are going to include stops at La Coca Falls and the Tower Lookout, along with a short nature walk. So this is a big one. I have yet to go, but I got to say it's top of my list. Next time I go to San Juan, I'm going to go. Another option is La Quillo Beach. Here you'll find calm water, palm trees, and food kiosks selling those local favorites that I talked about, like empanadillas and piña coladas. And I mentioned this, even though I already talked about beaches, because this is often offered as a combo tour with El Yunque Rainforest, as a rainforest beach combo. So if you've got the time, feel free to do both, or you can do one or the other. And of course, with cruise line excursions, what you'll see many of them offer is a city tour, or a highlights of San Juan, or the best of Old San Juan. And basically what they'll do is they'll take you on a guided tour around Old San Juan. But as I mentioned at the start of this video, you don't have to spend the money on that. If that's what you want to do, just get out and explore on foot, take one of those golf carts, or do what I do and hire a private driver so you have the comfort of air conditioning and you're not stuck with a bunch of random people. But as I mentioned, if you're easily bored, get out, go visit El Yunque. But whatever you do, despite the heat and humidity, I still do like San Juan.